My 15-year-old cousin accused me of SA to avoid being grounded. 9 years later, she finally confessed. My 15-year-old cousin accused me of something horrible just to dodge getting grounded. 9 years went by before she finally came clean. Back then, when she told that lie, my entire family cut me off without a second thought. I was 22 at the time, just hanging out and gaming with my buddies, when my mom did something that was basically unheard of in our family. She called me twice in a row. In our house, if someone calls back-to-back, it means something serious is going down. When I picked up, all I could hear was yelling and chaos. She stepped into another room, still crying, and asked if I had anything to confess about Emily. I told her no, absolutely not. I had no clue what she meant. Emily was my younger cousin. I hadn't seen her in years. Then Mom started screaming that Emily said I did things to her, said I assaulted her when she was 9 and I was 16. She claimed I walked into my room while she was playing and did it regularly. Emily even gave them a bunch of made-up details, like she had rehearsed it. I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. I kept telling my mom it wasn't true, over and over, but she wouldn't stop shouting, "Did you do this?" again and again. I kept yelling no, right back, but it didn't matter. She didn't believe me. By the end of that call, both my parents were on speaker, saying they never wanted to see or hear from me again. Not long after that, my sisters started texting me, calling me disgusting. Then they blocked me too. I tried calling everyone in the family, but nobody answered. They all cut me off. The only thing I got from my dad was a final text, "Stop contacting us." That first year destroyed me. Every single day, I thought the cops were coming to arrest me. I stopped eating, blew every job interview I had. Eventually, I started drinking a lot and taking oxy just to numb everything. The anger started bubbling over, and since I lived alone, I'd just wreck my own apartment. One night, the neighbors called the cops after hearing glass shatter, but I played it off like I just dropped something. Some nights, I sat there in the dark, obsessing over how to make Emily pay. I actually thought about hurting her and making it look like an accident. And sometimes, in the darkest moments, I imagined doing worse than what she accused me of, just to match the punishment I was living with. Those thoughts scared me, but I couldn't stop them. Then, finally, in late 2015, I landed a job. It gave me some structure, something to hold on to. I started crawling out of that hole. I got sober, stuck with therapy, and just last year, I bought a house. I've been on antidepressants ever since. They've dulled the worst of it. Now, instead of rage, there's just emptiness. I tried dating a couple times, but when I told them I had no family, they'd always ask why. There's no good way to explain something like this. Most women didn't stick around after hearing it. Honestly, the only woman I really talk to now is my therapist. Then, last week, I got a text from my mom, out of the blue. First message I'd gotten from her in 9 years. She said they missed me and started telling me about how my sisters had kids. Then the next day, she hit me with the real bombshell. At some family gathering last month, the topic of Emily came up. And apparently, she started acting weird, brushing off the whole thing like it wasn't a big deal. That set off alarms for my mom, so she pushed her a bit. And that's when Emily admitted none of it ever happened. Said maybe it was a dream. The whole family lost it. My mom and dad went out to the backyard and just cried. They called me after, saying how shocked and furious they were. Said they told the rest of the family the truth, and that they want me back in their lives. But I haven't answered. All the memories hit me like a freight train. I've been shaking with rage ever since. There's a part of me that wants revenge, wants to take them apart, one by one, starting with Emily, just so they can feel a piece of what I went through. And then this morning, Emily texted me directly. After 9 years of silence, she suddenly acts like we can just talk. She said she knows I hate her, but wanted to tell me the real story. Said it wasn't a dream, and it wasn't confusion. When she was 15, her mom caught her sneaking out to meet some guy. She was about to get grounded for the whole summer and miss out on camp. So she told them she was acting out because of past trauma. And when they asked for details, she made something up on the spot. She picked me because I was far away at college and barely saw anyone. She thought I'd just say I didn't do it, and the whole thing would blow over. She never expected them to actually cut me out of their lives. She tried to walk it back a few days later, but by then, everyone thought she was lying to protect me. The lie snowballed, and she got too scared to tell the truth. She told me she's been in therapy for years, trying to cope with the guilt. Said she was sorry, really sorry, and that she understood if I never forgave her. She ended with, "It was never about you. I just didn't want to miss camp." I took screenshots of everything. Now I'm deciding what to do with them. My therapist is out of town for the next 3 weeks. Meanwhile, the anger is eating me alive. I've been sober for 4 years, but all I want is to black out and show up on their doorstep. But I know exactly what I'm going to do. They're about to learn what real consequences feel like. It was the first time in 2 years I'd missed our usual morning coffee call. I let it go straight to voicemail. Instead, I took screenshots, one of Emily's confession from the night before and another of her LinkedIn profile. Then I opened my text messages from Mom. All her messages asking me to come home were still sitting there, untouched. I hovered my thumb over the little paperclip icon. Just one screenshot. No caption, no explanation. Let her figure it out herself. My phone battery was hanging on at 6%. That low battery warning flashing on the screen made me hit send without thinking twice. The reply came almost instantly. Mom called. I let it ring. Didn't pick up. She kept calling. Over and over. By the time I started driving to work, she'd called me 47 times in under 10 minutes. My phone was vibrating like crazy on the seat next to me, her name lighting up the screen again and again. Then I pulled into the warehouse parking lot, and my stomach dropped. There was Emily's white Honda, parked in the visitor spot. What the hell was she doing at my job? Once I got inside, I spotted her through the office window. She was talking fast and waving her hands like she was telling some emotional story. She even pulled out a tissue and dabbed at her eyes. My boss, Mr. Thompson, had that someone just died look on his face. I tried to sneak past the office and just clock in, but he caught sight of me and motioned for me to come in. Emily didn't even glance in my direction. Mr. Thompson pulled me over by the water cooler and lowered his voice. Hey man, I'm really sorry about the loss in your family, he said gently. Apparently Emily told him everything. Told him there'd been a death and I was grieving. He told me to take whatever time I needed. I stayed calm and kept my voice steady. There wasn't any death. She's lying. I made sure to glance up at the little red light blinking on the security camera. It was recording everything. Mr. Thompson's expression shifted fast. The sympathy dropped off his face, replaced with confusion. He looked from me to Emily, clearly unsure who to believe. That's when she finally looked at me, eyes wide, voice shaky. I was just worried about you. You weren't answering anyone's calls. I didn't say a word, just turned and walked straight to my station. Mr. Thompson trailed behind me, clearly rattled. But I just started my inventory shift like it was any other day. Emily left pretty quick after that. During my first break, my phone had blown up with Facebook notifications. Turns out, Emily had messaged a bunch of my coworkers. Told them she was worried about my mental health, said I'd been acting weird. Claimed the whole family was concerned and they should keep an eye on me. Jake from shipping found me by the loading dock. Hey man, your cousin dropped by, he said. She seemed real worried. You okay? My jaw clenched so tight I thought my teeth might crack, but I just nodded and kept moving. At lunch, I sat in my car and opened up Facebook. Hadn't looked at Emily's profile in months. Her posts from back in 2015 were still public. And sure enough, there it was, her big survivor post, the one she put up right after the accusation. Hundreds of people had commented back then, calling her brave, sending her prayers. One comment stood out. It was from 3 weeks ago. Ryan Collins had written how proud he was of her strength. My phone buzzed just then. An unknown number. I almost ignored it until I saw the preview. This is Ryan Collins. I know the truth now. We need to talk. Before I could even react, another message popped up. This one was from Dad. Your mother is hysterical. Emily says you've been stalking her for months. We're thinking about filing a restraining order. I wanted to hurl my phone through the windshield. Instead, I opened the old family group chat from back before my life fell apart. I scrolled back years. There was Emily, asking me to help with her algebra homework. Telling me I was her favorite cousin when I came home from college. The last message she sent me before all of this, asking me to bring her a souvenir from campus. Then my phone rang again. It was HR. I let it go to voicemail and listened to it immediately. Hi, this is Reynolds from Human Resources. We received a concerning email about you from a family member. We need to schedule a meeting tomorrow morning to talk about some allegations regarding your mental state and history. Please call us back to confirm. As I headed back inside, my supervisor Carter pulled me aside. Hey, just a heads up, he said. That woman who was here earlier sent some serious stuff to HR. She was pretty convincing. Said something about past violence toward women. I just wanted you to be prepared for what's coming tomorrow. After my shift ended, I didn't go home. Instead, I drove out to my parents' neighborhood. Not to their house. I wasn't ready for that. I pulled up to Mrs. Park's place, their next-door neighbor. She'd always been kind to me. Emmeline sent me a card once, saying she never believed the accusations. Mrs. Park welcomed me in for tea. Her hands shook as she poured. Maybe from age, maybe from nerves, I wasn't sure. She spoke softly. Your parents told everyone you'd been getting help for your problem, she said. But I never believed you had a problem to begin with. That evening, I went to the public library and logged into a computer. I made a throwaway email address and attached the screenshots of Emily's confession. Then I sent them to Ryan Collins' work email, which I found on his firm's website. Right after that, I deleted the account. By 11 p.m., I couldn't help myself. I drove past Emily's apartment complex. Ryan's BMW was parked in the visitor section. Emmeline from the street. I could hear yelling coming from her second-floor unit. A window slammed shut. Then my phone buzzed. It was a text from Emily. I'm telling everyone you faked those screenshots. I was still trying to wrap my head around that when headlights lit up behind me. I tensed, expecting a fight. But it wasn't a stranger, it was Lisa. My sister Lisa. She stepped out of her car, and even in the streetlight, I could see her mascara was streaked from crying. She knocked on my window. I rolled it down, but didn't say a word. Mom showed me the screenshot. Lisa said, her voice trembling. I've been thinking about the time Emily lied about me stealing her iPad. Remember that? She even made up a timeline, details, everything. And then we found it under her bed a week later. She glanced over at my packed gym bag sitting on the passenger seat. Were you planning to leave town? I shook my head. Nah, just like to be ready. Lisa slid into the passenger seat without asking. She used to do stuff like that all the time when we were younger. She used to fake stuff constantly, Lisa said. Pretending to be sick before big tests. Claiming injuries before family events she didn't want to go to. Remember when she said she had appendicitis right before Grandpa's 80th? Hospital ran tests. Nothing was wrong. Then my phone buzzed again. It was another message from Ryan. She admitted it to me. I'm done. She doesn't know I'm talking to you. I turned the screen toward Lisa so she could see it for herself. Before I could stop her, Lisa snatched my phone and typed out a reply to Ryan. Can you record her if she admits it again? She wrote. Ryan didn't hesitate. His answer came right away. Already ahead of you. He told us Emily had been blowing up his phone all night with frantic messages. She even claimed to have evidence that I'd been stalking her. He told me straight. He knew it was a lie. Lisa handed my phone back to me with a hard look. This is going to get a lot worse before it gets better. The next morning, Emily posted something on Instagram. Just a plain black square with white text, ranting about toxic relatives trying to rewrite history. Her hashtags made me want to throw up. Hashtag survivor. Hashtag my truth. Hashtag healing journey. Less than an hour later, I got texts from 3 of our cousins. They were asking if Emily's post was aimed at me. One of them even said she'd noticed Emily acting off lately at family get-togethers. I was just walking into work when another message from Ryan came through. Meeting you at the diner on 5th Street. Noon. I've got something you really need to hear. I showed up early and grabbed a booth in the back corner. Sat there gripping a coffee cup I didn't plan to drink. The waitress, Catherine, knew me from all the rough mornings I'd spent there. She gave me a little nod of sympathy, like she could sense I was going through it again. Ryan Collins walked in right at noon on the dot. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. Usually he had that clean-cut, polished banker look, but not that day. His tie was loose, his eyes bloodshot, and he looked worn down. He slid into the booth across from me and pulled out his phone. Showed me a voice recording app loaded with clips from the last couple of nights. Then he told me what happened. After reading the email I'd sent him, he'd gone straight to Emily. Confronted her. She broke down and admitted everything, but then immediately tried to twist it all into news stories. He hit record and captured every second. He played me a clip where Emily was testing out different lies. In one version, she claimed I'd been stalking her recently. In another, she said I'd threatened her family. Each story was more dramatic and damaging than the last. The way she manipulated things, it wasn't random. It was calculated. Then Ryan handed me a folder. Inside were printed emails between Emily and her best friend, Sarah. They'd been planning for this day, just in case the truth ever slipped out. Emily had written out detailed strategies on how to stay the victim. Included faking new claims, stalking, threats, whatever it took to stay on top of the lie. Before I could even react, the bell over the diner door jingled. Emily walked in, eyes darting around like she was searching for someone. She didn't make it far. Catherine stepped right in front of her and practically shouted, "I don't serve liars in this place." The whole diner went silent. People started turning around to stare. Emily's face turned red as she spotted us. She tried to walk over, but Catherine wouldn't let her past. After a moment, Emily spun on her heel and stormed out, but not before shooting me a look full of venom. Almost as soon as she left, I got a text from my sister, Megan. Turns out Lisa had brought her over to my house that morning. Megan said she wanted to talk. I met them there after I left the diner. Megan was already crying when I walked through the door. Her hands trembled as she handed me an old journal from back in 2015. She'd kept records, notes about Emily's behavior during their teenage years. Lies about teachers, fake panic attacks, stories made up to control people or get out of trouble. Page after page showed the same thing. Emily using lies to twist people around her. Megan confessed she'd always had a gut feeling that Emily had lied about me. But the way the family had reacted, how fast and how harsh, it had scared her into silence. She told herself she must have been wrong, that everyone else couldn't be mistaken. That afternoon, I got a message on Facebook from Olivia, Emily's college roommate. She'd seen Emily's Instagram post and instantly recognized the pattern. Said she'd seen Emily pull the same tactics before. Olivia had her own receipts, screenshots of old messages where Emily bragged about destroying someone who crossed her. The messages dated back to our sophomore year of college. One message froze me to the bone. My cousin learned not to ignore me. I replied carefully, trying to keep it neutral despite the fury building up inside me. Olivia offered to send me everything she had. Within the hour, I had chat logs that showed a long history. Emily making up accusations, including one against a professor who gave her a bad grade. Meanwhile, I still had to deal with the HR fallout. I put together a calm, professional response. I CC'd a lawyer friend who'd volunteered to back me up. In my reply, I laid out the facts. I attached Emily's confession and stayed composed the whole way through. Pretty soon, word got around the warehouse. People noticed how calm I was, and they started asking questions. It didn't take long before folks figured out what was really going on. Emily was losing control fast. Ryan let me know she'd been put on administrative leave at her firm. They'd reviewed the material he shared, especially the proof of past false claims. The wedding? Cancelled. It had been set for just 3 weeks away. She was unraveling. That evening, I was picking up groceries when I felt someone watching me. I turned and saw my mother at the end of the aisle. Her hands were trembling as she walked up. She was crying already, whispering apologies through her tears. Around her neck was the birthday necklace I'd given her when she turned 50. But we didn't get to talk much. From the next aisle, Emily showed up. She'd been following Mom. Right away, she started raising her voice, saying I was manipulating everyone. Claimed I'd faked the evidence. People around us began turning to look. I kept my mouth shut. I knew the store had cameras. Mom looked between us, and I could see her finally start to question everything. Really see Emily for who she was. Then Emily said something I didn't expect. She offered me 50 grand. Right there, in front of everyone. Said it was from her trust fund, meant to help me leave town and start over. She said it loud enough for the other shoppers to hear, trying to make it sound generous. But I pulled out my phone and hit record. Made sure she repeated the offer clearly. And she did. Emmeline added that all I had to do was sign something saying the screenshots were fake. Later that night, I got a message from Aunt Claire, Emily's mom. She wanted to meet. Told me something wasn't sitting right with Emily's changing stories. We agreed on a neutral place for the next day. Through all this, Ryan kept backing me up. He told me Emily had been in therapy since college for compulsive lying and emotional manipulation. Said during one of her past incidents, accusing a teaching assistant, her therapy notes had actually been subpoenaed. He had copies. The pattern was clear as day. By this point, I realized something else. Just about everyone in the extended family had started to question her. Leary won except my parents and Emily's. They were the only ones still hanging on to the original lie. The family group chat that had been dead silent for years suddenly lit up like a bonfire. People were talking, sharing, questioning. Olivia kept sending more proof. One set of chat logs from just last week showed Emily laying out her backup plan. If she ever got caught lying, she'd play the mental illness card. She'd been researching symptoms, rehearsing stories about dissociation and false memories, like she was writing a script. It was disturbing how carefully she planned it all out. Then there was Jake. He showed what a real friend looks like. Emily showed up at my job again, waiting until she saw me heading for the loading dock. Jake didn't hesitate. He stepped in front of her, blocked her path, and called security while holding his ground. He looked her dead in the eye and said, "I know what a predator looks like. And it's not him." She took off before the guard showed up, but not before several coworkers saw the whole thing go down. That night, Jake opened up to me. He told me he'd gone through something similar, accused by a relative years back. He recognized the same patterns, the same twisted tactics. We spent hours that night putting together a plan, something solid, something safe. Our goal wasn't revenge. It was about getting the truth out there without hurting real survivors or feeding into social media drama. Ryan tossed out the idea of posting it all online, but I shot that down quick. This wasn't about airing dirty laundry. It was about making sure Emily couldn't keep hurting people. We agreed. Keep it private, document everything for protection, but don't turn it into a spectacle. 2 days later, I was pumping gas when she appeared beside me. Emily. Again. She leaned in real close and whispered that no one would ever believe me. Said screenshots could be faked, and in everyone's eyes, she was still the victim. I didn't say a word, just gave her a little smile and pointed at the security camera right above us. Her face went pale instantly. Meanwhile, Ryan compiled all his recordings and had them notarized. He backed everything up in 3 separate places and handed me copies. We had her confession locked down from every angle. And the dominoes? They started falling fast. Sarah, Emily's best friend, blocked her on every platform after Ryan showed her the truth. She even sent me a message saying she'd always felt something wasn't quite right, but she'd wanted to believe her friend. More families started reaching out. They were beginning to connect the dots, sharing things they'd noticed over the years. Lisa created a private group chat for the relatives who now believed me. She posted Megan's journal entries, and that lit the fire. People started talking. Sides were forming, but the momentum was swinging my way. One by one, Emily's supporters went quiet as the pile of evidence got too big to ignore. I booked a session with a therapist who was covering for mine while she was away. We worked out ways to protect my sobriety and still pursue justice. She helped me prepare for tough conversations and taught me how to keep anger from taking over. It was draining, but necessary. Leary thing boiled over one night when Emily showed up at my house. It was 2 a.m. She was drunk, pounding on my front door and screaming at the top of her lungs. She yelled that I'd ruined her life, that I'd taken everything from her. I called Jake and Ryan. They showed up fast, both ready to help and document whatever happened. Emily completely lost it. She kicked my door, chucked a rock at my window, and kept screaming threats. My elderly neighbor came out and told her to knock it off. Said this wasn't the first time she'd seen Emily act like that. Other neighbors were peeking from their windows too. Jake got it all on camera while Ryan called the cops. When the officers arrived, Emily tried to spin another story. Said I'd invited her over and locked her out. But with all the witnesses and her obvious drunken state, her lie didn't stand a chance. The cops took statements and told me to file for a restraining order. The next morning, Ryan got a call from Emily's employer. After conducting an internal investigation, they let her go permanently. Her track record of false claims and the current chaos made her too big a risk. Word of her actions spread through her professional circle fast. Then Mrs. Park, my old neighbor, dropped a surprise on me. She'd overheard Emily's parents talking back in 2019, saying they were thinking of checking on me. And she had video from her doorbell cam. It showed Emily's parents sitting in a car outside my house, just watching. They'd known where I was the entire time. They chose silence. I made sure Ryan had a support system too. Told him to set boundaries, not let this turn into a crusade against Emily. Suggested he look into support groups for people recovering from relationships with manipulative partners. He followed through and said it helped a lot. Both Lisa and Megan made things right with me. We started having dinner together every week, slowly catching up on 9 years we'd lost. They introduced me to their kids, my nieces and nephews I'd never met before. It was overwhelming, the grief of all that time gone, but also the joy of having them back. Relatives who'd believed me from the beginning started coming forward too. They apologized for staying quiet. Said they were afraid of being pushed out like I had been. Our whole family had been run by fear. Emily had weaponized that fear perfectly. She made one more play, though. Sent a group message claiming I was turning the whole family against her. Said I was the manipulator, and she was the one being gaslit. But her stories kept changing. People weren't buying it anymore. During a family dinner she hadn't been invited to, Emily showed up anyway. She barged in, and things got heated. When someone finally called her out, she snapped. She screamed that I deserved everything because I always got the attention. Said she hated me for being the favorite, for living the life she wanted. 12 relatives heard her say it, loud and clear. My dad was standing there too. The man who'd sent me that final message 9 years ago, telling me never to contact them again. When he heard Emily threaten to destroy me like she had before, something shifted in his eyes. His face went pale. And then, for the first time in almost a decade, he broke down. Old family friends who'd disappeared during the mess started inviting me to things again. Emily wasn't welcome anymore. The same isolation she put me through had finally landed on her. The HR investigation at work wrapped up soon after. They concluded that her accusations were baseless and clearly retaliatory. The complaint was tossed out officially. My boss even pulled me aside and apologized. Said Emily had been really convincing back then. I didn't hold it against him. She had managed to fool our entire family for nearly a decade. Then came word of a family reunion scheduled for the next month. Grandma, now 94 and not doing too well, wanted everyone there, just in case it turned out to be her last. That reunion became a kind of deadline. The family needed to figure out what to do about Emily. And right around that time, more dirt came to light. One of Emily's ex-boyfriends from her college days reached out. Said she'd accused him of stealing right after he broke up with her. He had the police report to prove his name had been cleared. Turns out, Emily's habit of making false claims stretched back way farther than anyone realized. I sat down and built a full timeline of her lies. Dates, names, witnesses, anything I could dig up. It painted a clear picture. What started as small fibs to get attention had escalated into massive, life-destroying accusations. The family couldn't pretend it away anymore. At a sit-down meeting, I laid everything out calmly and clearly. Meanwhile, Emily kept unraveling right in front of everyone, flipping her story, contradicting herself, getting more and more worked up until she was outright screaming. Her own parents tried to calm her down, but then she snapped at them too. That's when my mom finally broke her silence. She admitted something had never felt quite right about Emily's original claim, but she'd been too stunned to think straight back then. The level of emotion and detail Emily gave had drowned out any logic. Mom confessed she had chosen to believe her niece instead of her own son, and that guilt had been eating her alive ever since. Later, we had a small family dinner, without Emily. It was the first time in 9 years that I'd truly been welcomed back into the fold. I found myself sitting in my old chair at the table, surrounded by faces I hadn't shared a meal with in nearly a decade. Nobody said anything about the missing years, but you could feel the weight of that silence. It hung in the air like smoke. Then Emily made one more desperate attempt to regain sympathy. She claimed she was having panic attacks and heart problems from all the stress. Said she needed family support or something bad might happen. But we'd seen this movie before. Lisa was quick to remind everyone that Emily had pulled the exact same health stunts back in high school whenever she got caught in a lie. And just when we thought her credibility couldn't sink any lower, another bomb dropped. Her employer discovered she'd lied on her resume, claimed she had a master's degree she never finished. They dug a little deeper and found even more inconsistencies. She was officially fired. Meanwhile, my relationship with my siblings finally felt whole again. We kept up our weekly dinners, trading stories, trying to piece together the 9 years we'd lost. The wounds would never fully close, but we were rebuilding, slowly but surely. Through all of this, I stayed sober. The urge to drink was always there, especially when things got intense. But this time around, I had support I didn't have back then. Jake checked in every day. My therapist stand-in helped me work through everything, one session at a time. Emily's life was falling apart, and all of it was her doing. Lie after lie, piled on top of each other like a house of cards, until it finally came crashing down. The family that she'd manipulated and divided for years? They were finally waking up to the truth. One evening, I sat in my car outside my old childhood home. Just sat there, staring at the front porch, wondering if I had it in me to walk through that door again. The house hadn't changed, but I sure had. 9 years of silence don't disappear just like that. Still, for the first time since that awful call while I was gaming with friends, I felt something like hope. That night, we had a family meeting at Grandma's house. When I pulled up, the driveway was already packed with familiar cars. Through the window, I saw my aunts, uncles, and cousins sitting in the living room. Just like they had the night everything blew up. The déjà vu was unreal. Lisa gave my shoulder a reassuring squeeze as I took a seat. About 20 minutes later, Emily showed up with her parents. She looked like a shell of who she used to be, greasy hair, wrinkled clothes, deep bags under her eyes. Whatever confidence she'd once had was gone. She tried to sit in her old spot, but Grandma pointed to a chair placed dead center in the room. The color drained from Emily's face when she realized what that meant. She'd be facing everyone head-on. I went through the timeline point by point. Emily lie, Emily pattern, all backed with documentation. Megan's journal made the rounds. Ryan's notarized statements too. Olivia's screenshots got passed around quietly, each one like another nail in the coffin. Emily's parents turned pale as they read through her own words, her bragging about ruining people who didn't give her what she wanted. She tried to cut in, tried to cry, tried to claim the evidence had been faked. But Ryan was ready. He played the audio recording of her own voice, laying out every bit of it, confessing, planning more lies, shifting blame. The room was silent, except for gasps and stunned murmurs. One of my aunts even left the room in tears. Then Grandma spoke. Her voice, normally soft and gentle, rang through the room like a bell. She talked about the damage the lie had done to our family, how she'd stayed quiet even though she'd had doubts all along. Then she turned to Emily and told her flat out. She'd destroyed something beautiful with her lies. That's when Emily finally cracked. She shot up from her chair, screaming that I had always been the favorite, that no one had ever really seen her, that I deserved what happened because I ignored her at family get-togethers. The mask didn't slip, it shattered. Then she said it. The truth. She admitted she'd made the whole thing up because I missed her birthday while I was away at college. 9 years of pain. Because of one missed birthday party. Aunt Claire went ghost white and stood up without a word. She came back a few minutes later holding a worn-out diary with flowers on the cover. Said she'd found it cleaning out Emily's old room. Her hands trembled as she flipped through the pages. The entries were horrifying. Emily had written it all out, her plans to punish me for not paying attention to her. There was even an entry from 2 weeks before the accusation where she spelled out exactly what she was going to say I did. Emily lunged for the diary, but her dad grabbed her arm first. He opened it, read one of the entries out loud, and I swear his voice cracked on every word. She'd picked me because I was out of reach. She wrote that the accusation she planned, assault, was sure to make the family cut me off. She even practiced how to tell her parents so it would sound believable. And just like that, the dam broke. Years of bottled-up anger came flooding out. My relatives, some of whom had stayed quiet all this time, finally spoke up. They called her out on other lies, phony illnesses, false stories about teachers, every twisted trick she'd used since childhood. The pattern was all there. Clear as day. Emily's parents just sat there, stunned, as the truth about their daughter's lifetime of lies finally spilled out. Then Grandma stood up, steadying herself with her cane, and made the decision that would change everything for our family. She said, clear as day, that Emily was no longer welcome at any family gathering. Not until she got serious psychiatric help and made real, heartfelt amends to every person she'd hurt. And when the matriarch speaks, you listen. No one challenged her. Emily's response. It was quick and nasty. She pulled out her phone and shoved it in my face. A photo of her holding a spray paint can, standing over my car. She threatened me, said if I didn't publicly forgive her and say the screenshots were fake, she'd make sure everyone saw me as a dangerous man. I didn't say a word, just walked outside. A few relatives followed behind me. And there it was, my car, sitting in Grandma's driveway, with the word predator scrawled across the hood in bright red spray paint. But Emily had made a big mistake. Grandma's neighbor, who happened to be a retired cop, had a security camera that caught everything. He pulled up the footage on his phone, and we all stood there watching Emily spray painting my car just minutes before she'd walked into the house. He offered to help file a police report right then and there. While that was going on, something else unfolded nearby. Emily's parents were leading her to their car. Her mom was on the phone, clearly shaken, talking fast about a psychiatric emergency. Her dad gripped Emily's arm as she flailed, crying 1 minute, yelling the next. Back inside, the family split again. Some folks were scared we were pushing Emily too far, that she might actually snap. My mom, especially. She kept pacing, wringing her hands, begging everyone to just move forward and keep the peace. She's still family, she said over and over. Maybe we can work through this. That kicked off a whole new argument. Some wanted to help Emily while staying connected. Others, led by Lisa and Megan, insisted we needed firm boundaries. Voices got louder. Old grudges bubbled up. It was like watching the same dynamics that gave Emily so much power all those years ago rise up again. I left and sat in my vandalized car for over an hour. From the driveway, I could see everyone inside, still arguing. 9 years ago, they'd all turned on me without a second thought. Now they couldn't even agree on what to do with the truth. My phone buzzed nonstop, texts from both sides, trying to get me to join their corner. Then Jake pulled in. He'd seen my location pin. He looked over at my car, shook his head slowly, and didn't say a word. We just sat in silence, me staring out the windshield, thinking. I had two choices. I could press charges, file for a restraining order, really make sure Emily faced consequences. Or, I could go the other way, support her parents' push for a psychiatric intervention. My decision came into focus when Emily's dad walked up and tapped on my window. He looked like he'd aged 10 years in one night. He told me they were taking Emily in for an emergency evaluation. She'd threatened to harm herself, scratched her own arms until she bled. They needed my support to authorize the hold. So I agreed, but with conditions. I told him I would back the mental health intervention only if Emily admitted the truth to everyone she'd lied to, that she'd have zero contact with me going forward, and she had to follow every single treatment recommendation to the letter. There'd be no second chances, no bending the rules. Right then, Emily broke down again. She yanked free from her dad's grip and ran toward the street, screaming that she'd rather die than be locked up. Her father caught her just before she reached the road. It was chaos. Neighbors came out to their porches. Some stood at their windows watching as Emily fought her parents, shouted threats, sobbed uncontrollably. Her mom was already on the phone, calling for help. Minutes later, an ambulance arrived. Paramedics stepped out, calm and professional, trying to de-escalate. Emily kept switching up her story, saying she admitted everything, then denying it, then blaming us for driving her crazy. She told the paramedics I'd stalked her, that this was all payback because she'd rejected me. But by then, there were 12 family witnesses, signed confessions, and security footage. Her words just didn't stick. The paramedics had seen enough of these episodes to recognize the signs. They loaded her in the ambulance and drove off toward the facility. Back at Grandma's, the arguments had burned out. Emmy Leary one was exhausted. We sat in the same living room where the nightmare had started 9 years earlier, just trying to wrap our heads around everything. Grandma broke the silence. She asked me what I needed, going forward. I told them plainly. I needed full acknowledgement of what was done to me. Support for Emily's treatment, but only with hard boundaries. No pressure to forgive or rebuild until I was ready. And most importantly, no more secrets. No more pretending not to see the red flags. 3 weeks later, we met again at Grandma's. Emily showed up with her parents and a therapist from the psychiatric center. She'd checked involuntarily after the initial hold. The therapist explained she'd been diagnosed with a severe personality disorder. Treatment would be long, slow, and uncertain. Emily sat in the middle chair again, but this time, she was different. Heavily medicated. Her movements slow, her face blank. When it was her turn to speak, she pulled out a prepared statement and started reading. The words were right. She took responsibility. She admitted she'd lied, but there was no feeling in it. No emotion. Just something memorized, like she was reading off a page she didn't write herself. The therapist then explained just how deep this all went. Emily had spent years spinning fake stories, each one bolder than the last. Her accusation against me had just been the biggest and most damaging one. She answered some questions from the family, but her tone kept shifting. One moment, she said it was her mental illness that made her do it. The next, she admitted she'd known it was wrong all along. She apologized, and then hinted that maybe we'd all just overreacted. The therapist kept a close eye on her, gently correcting whenever Emily started trying to twist things again. Grandma was the last to speak. Her words cut right through Emily's rehearsed act. She told Emily plainly that lies carry real consequences, and that mental illness doesn't excuse willfully hurting others. She reaffirmed the family's choice. Emily would stay completely out of family events for at least 5 years. Only if she finished treatment and truly made amends would they consider letting her back in. Of course, Emily had one last manipulation up her sleeve. She grabbed her stomach, wincing, claiming intense pain, saying the stress might push her to harm herself if the family didn't show forgiveness. But the room was united. The message was clear: get help. Follow your treatment. Own your actions. No more emotional blackmail. The therapist guided Emily out as her parents signed the necessary paperwork. She was headed back to the facility for ongoing treatment. Before she left, Emily glanced back at me once. No apology in her eyes. Just cold calculation, already scheming her next move. Some things just don't change. Later, I stood in Grandma's backyard with my siblings and cousins. We built a small fire in the old pit. I pulled out the folder filled with all the evidence, screenshots, printouts, 9 years of pain documented in black and white. One by one, I fed those pages to the flames. The ashes scattered on the breeze, drifting toward the fence by Emily's childhood home. My mom came up as the last papers burned. She brought out a photo album from the house, pictures from before the lie, family celebrations, holidays, and my college graduation. Then she handed me a pen and a stack of recent photos. Together, we started filling in the missing pages. 6 months later, I hosted Christmas dinner at my place. The table was full. Parents, sisters, their kids, cousins, aunts, uncles. Grandma sat at the head of the table, still sharp, even if a bit weaker now. One chair remained empty, Emily's chair, with a framed photo of our family from before everything fell apart. A reminder of what lies cost, and what truth can rebuild. My girlfriend helped serve dinner. She'd been with me through those final months of rebuilding. My nieces and nephews called me uncle for the first time. The word felt strange, but it also felt right. Jake joined us, practically family by now. Ryan sent a card from afar. He'd found peace in a support group, and even started dating again. During dessert, the doorbell rang. Emmy Leary one tensed for a moment, but it was just carolers, bringing holiday cheer. We listened together from the doorway, standing close. Not the same as before. Scarred, but healing. Broken, but mending. Some things can't be restored. 9 years don't come back. But new things? They can grow, built on a foundation of truth.